This fall, I'm attending Harvard College. 1 year of attendance is $83,950. Yikes, that's a lot. I'm going through my own personal journey of paying for my first year using a variety of merit-based scholarships and awards so that people are aware of the opportunities that you get, especially for underclassmen. That being said, I've managed to pay for my first year without any financial aid, assistance from my parents, or student loans. But how did I even manage to do that? Well, the story actually starts back in 8th grade.
America's 2018 Top Young Scientist is Rishabh Jain.
In 2018, I won the 3M Young Scientist Challenge, netting me $25,000. This was the first big chunk of money I had ever won. And at the time, the advice I got was save it for college. Throughout the rest of middle school, I won various other awards, netting me an additional $13,000. But the next year, when I started high school, everything changed. There was a major turning point in my story. Uncle Sam. If you don't know who Uncle Sam is, he's the US government, and this is when my parents told me that, hey Rishabh, I know you earned a good chunk of money, but you can't actually use all of it. And I was like, oh, don't worry, mom and dad, I'm saving the majority of it for college, so you don't even have to worry. And they said, yeah, we know. What we meant is that you need to pay like $15K to the IRS in taxes. And I'm sure that's something a lot of you can relate to, having worked a job or an internship or starting a small business. And speaking of starting a small business, that's when I started getting really into entrepreneurship. Some of you might know that I used to own 7 Discord servers, which collectively had around 250,000 members. I also had a YouTube channel where I talked about Discord, which now has around 100K subs. When I finally got monetized in 9th grade, I swear it was the most amazing feeling getting the check. I mean, it was $100, but it was $100 for something that I started as a pure hobby and never would have envisioned resulted in anything. Overall, I earned around $30,000 from my experience, which was really cool considering I initially started that whole thing just messing around online on Discord. But for all you STEM nerds out there, at the same time, I was continuing my science research. I presented these projects at high school science fairs and I started to win really big. I went on to win the Junior Science and Humanities Symposium. Ding ding, that's a great opportunity for other high schoolers out there. Make sure to write these down in case you're interested. As well as the International Science and Engineering Fair. And I ended up winning in my sophomore year first place at the National JSHS, as well as 3rd grand prize in biomedical engineering at ISEF. The very next year, I went on to win first place at the National JSHS again, as well as win the $50,000 Regeneron Young Scientist Award at ISEF, which was probably one of the most memorable experiences of my entire life.
And in the category of biomedical engineering from Portland, Oregon, Rishabh Jain.
So in total, from these experiences, I earned around $85,000, but these were all college scholarships that go directly to the school. And that is a key factor that you need to remember when considering Uncle Sam. But here's where things get interesting. So far, I've talked about, earnings of my own, as well as earning college scholarships. But what about scholarships that schools themselves give? Through participating in my local science competitions, I actually got scholarships to several local schools, $36,000 to the University of Oregon, $100,000 to Lewis and Clark College. And so that is something that you really need to keep in mind, especially if your goal is to attend your local schools. Now, finally comes my senior year, and this is where I have some really key advice for you all. So one of the really cool things is the NMSC, or National Merit Scholarship Corporation, and they run this contest called the National Merit Scholarship. It's one of the nation's most prestigious, merit-based scholarship awards that's done on a very massive scale. And the reason why is because it's done through testing. On those standardized tests, you may feel like, hey, this is my junior year, it's a precursor. My teacher or my principal told me that, hey, none of this matters. And yes, while the score you get, it might not be reported to the colleges you end up applying to next year, these opportunities can often win you money in scholarships later on. And I'm not talking, the National Merit Scholarship Corporation, I got a $2,500 scholarship from them to any college I wanted to go to. But there are a lot of schools that offer scholarships for students who are NMS. So you can think of schools like USC or the University of Arizona or UT Dallas. And so I ended up getting a $60,000 offer from UT Dallas, $140,000 from the University of Arizona, and several others. And so I didn't end up applying to any of those schools, but that is something that you should really, really keep in mind. And I applied to Harvard, Stanford, MIT, Duke, and Boston University. A lot of the very selective private colleges, they might not provide merit-based scholarships at times, but Boston University does. I received a $250,000 scholarship offer from them, which was really cool. So that was another key finding. When you're applying to colleges, you do want to add a few schools, which I'll call scholarship schools. And eventually I hope to make a video on how to come up with a full college list, but these scholarship schools can come in handy when, negotiating offers, or, if you're really in a tight financial situation, always having that backup. Finally, I also earned the Coca-Cola Scholarship, which is one of the nation's most prestigious kind of academic, leadership, service, merit-based award. And so in total, I'm able to pay a little bit over a year worth of cost at Harvard, and is honestly something that I think a lot of high schoolers don't expect. But if you start early and start applying for these opportunities, I think you can have great outcomes.